is the Earth flat? Has humanity been completely lied to by the scientific elite? There are amateur researchers who claim to have proven this beyond doubt. But let's listen to what the recently deceased forefather of all truth seekers said about established science.
The skeptics, who constantly complain about something and actually know almost nothing. In my modern, Smith German eyes, they are smart asses. How long does it actually take for a formally denied, dubious opinion to become common knowledge? The American newspaper Science Online published a paper about it. And they took an example of a group of 10,000 people, of whom only 1,000 have a particular opinion that opposes the other 9,000. If the 1,000 vehemently advocate their opinion, actually share it with the others and are in need of sharing it, then it takes exactly 8 years for the entire group to have the same opinion.
Well, Mr. von Däniken, if that were true, if the Earth did not look the way science always presents it to us, then we would all believe in the flat Earth by now. How good to know that there's still some common sense left among our contemporaries. But after so many years of criticism from the truth-seeking community, we finally want to see it for ourselves with our own experiment. So we have chosen a classic from the flat Earth debunker scene. Something that requires relatively little technical effort and that anyone vacationing on an island like this one can easily replicate themselves. Sort of our own final experiment. In retrospect, one has to realize that the visit to Antarctica the year before last has really hurt the Flat Earth movement so much that even a prominent representative like Mr. Jaron Campanella from the USA threw in the towel and has now completely changed sides. The same goes for this nice lady, Patricia Steer, once their poster child, or these two former figureheads. Yes, the air is getting thin for truth seekers, like Kevin here, who recently spared no expense or effort to set up an experiment in the access balcony of an apartment building with which he wanted to disprove the existence of the curvature of the Earth. And anyone who tried to point out to him that the experiment wouldn't work was insulted by him as an ignorant denier of reality, even though they only meant well. However, one must give him credit for at least making a pathetic attempt to prove his worldview with his own research. Even there are still obvious problems with the interpretation of the results and the general experimental setup, but it's not that difficult after all. Speaking of thin air, it is also noticeably thinner at the location we have chosen for our final experiment, even if it's less spectacular. You will need a tripod, a piece of plastic tubing from the hardware store for a spirit level, a camera, a smartphone will do, of course, a wooden strip, or simply a slightly more robust spirit level that almost everyone has at home to attach the hose, some adhesive tape, and last but not least, a cheap bottle of red wine for the contrast of our spirit level, which would then actually be a wine level. Anyway, we only had to buy the wine and the hose in this case, which cost less than 10 euros. As part of this highly recommended tour around the observatory in Tenerife, it was a good opportunity to carry out the experiment not far from the site in order to test the alleged proof with which flat earthers have always tried to convince us of their worldview.
No matter where you are above the surface of the Earth, the horizon always rises to your eye level. Doesn't matter if you're standing on a beach, or up a hill, or in a plane at 35,000 feet. The horizon is always at eye level.
Yes, the horizon is always at eye level, This magical phrase has served as an excuse for many flat earthers to maintain their beliefs. And that means that no matter how high an observer is, the horizon remains at the same height.
The only way one would ever be able to see a curvature is if one would be standing on a cylinder where the curvature would be curving to below, or if one could get enough altitude to see the whole globe, of course. What does prove that there is no curvature is the fact that horizon always lifts to eye level despite your altitude.
Well, that would only apply if you believe in this flat Earth model, in which many more continents are supposed to lie beyond the supposed ice wall, meaning that the surface would be practically infinite. In the classic flat Earth model, as it was promoted by many truth seekers on YouTube until a few years ago, the horizon would only dip less deeply, which would only be visible at altitudes of a few hundred kilometers.
In my efforts to try to prove the globe, it's falling apart with horizon tests and seeing things that we shouldn't be able to see. If the ball is real, the math shows that, with the curvature, there are things we should not be able to see, and yet people are seeing it.
If you're standing on the ball, the point at which you are standing, from that point outward is receding downward, which means you can never look out to this mystical circle out in front of you at eye level. It cannot be. It can't happen. So this whole idea right here, while in principle it sounds good, looks good, but it's a myth. It does not exist in the observable, testable, and repeatable example of reality. Yet whether we're on the ground or flying up to 37,000 feet in an airplane or sending up a weather balloon to over 100,000 feet, there's that totally flat horizon straight ahead at our eye level. Always.
So you could say that a horizon that does not dip with increasing altitude would destroy the globe. Anyway, our experimental setup was finished. We were about 7,550 feet above sea level, and we looked toward the horizon.
The globe is the reason that there's a horizon. It's to be a physical location of Earth curvature blocking stuff in the distance. And it's dropping down and away from us in all directions, on a globe, of course. But that's not what we see in reality. As we increase altitude, the horizon is actually rising up with us. Now the horizon, if it's some physical curve of the Earth, it should be going down and away from us. As we increase our altitude, the horizon rises with eye level.
Our excitement rises too. What will happen if this doesn't work? And there you go. The experiment confirms all predictions. The horizon is clearly below the horizontal line. And as if that wasn't enough, making the flat world seem even more absurd than it already is, at sunset the sun is, of course, below the horizontal line. This is also only possible if we live on a globe. And now everyone knows why this experiment is never mentioned by flat earth believers, let alone why none of them have ever done it themselves, even though it's super easy. Because the never-dipping horizon is nothing more than a white lie that they rub in the faces of their critics at every opportunity, no more and no less. They believed they had recognized it when viewing photographs taken from high-altitude balloons, but even back then there were experiments that showed the curved and dipping horizon with a string. Of course, NASA or the evil Freemasons had a hand on it.
Everywhere there was videos of people doing science, putting balloons up with a camera that doesn't have a fisheye lens. The horizon rose to eye level, which would be impossible on a ball that would be falling away from you as you rose up.
Since flat earthers are extremely creative in inventing increasingly absurd white lies, they now simply claim that you can only see a certain distance before dust and haze obstruct your view, and that's why the horizon dips. Although this claim is not entirely new and thus represents a second personal atmospheric dome.
You know, it's flat. You know how they say the horizon rises to eye level? It never rises to eye level because it keeps having. The higher you go, the farther it goes, but you can't see all the way there. The light either can't make it to your eyes or the atmosphere is too thick. So it never really gets there. It's always just below. Probably you can't even measure it, but it's just below your eye level. But we'll call it eye level.
This well-known representative of the cult even makes a lot of money from his sheep by selling them a useless fantasy app that, as it turns out, has serious security flaws. The first personal dome was invented years earlier by one of the flat earth experts without any haze or dust to explain the starry sky of a flat earth. They were inspired by one of their most renowned critics, whose animations Dave eagerly stole, so he would have something to show his fanboys. And he wasn't the only one to jump on this bandwagon.
The personal atmospheric dome and how it works. The sun and the moon rotating above a flat earth, how it actually is perceived by us, and it's really quite an amazing app.
However, the animation actually only shows that the celestial lens of his flat Earth should influence the position of the stars in the same way as one would expect on a globe. So he basically contradicts himself, although this does not seem to bother his viewers. It only became really embarrassing when the developer of the app spoke up, wanting to explain it to him, but he accused him of having refuted the globe so that he could then continue to brazenly advertise his imaginary flat Earth. And there's the good news for Flat Earth Dave and his blindly imitating German-speaking offshoots. When the sun is below eye level, it means not only that the Earth is a sphere, but only that there can be no personal atmospheric dome of the first or second kind.
The horizon is always flat, and not only is it flat 360 degrees around you, no matter how high you rise, it rises with you, because it's the law of perspective we were talking about, and not the curvature of a ball.
I also noticed that since this sextant argument started, that people have stopped saying that the horizon rises to eye level.
That is just an outright lie. No one says it rises to eye level. We do say it rises relative to eye level, because it's not physically rising. It's only an optical illusion.
Yes, the hypocrisy that prevails in this cult is apparently hard to beat. Anyone who believes some self-proclaimed scientists, guys like the ones who appeared here, should always be aware that they're only doing it to either take money out of your pocket or to spread their sick worldview. And in case any globe skeptics are watching, let's be clear. Here, proof has been provided that a flat Earth cannot exist. Finally, after so much relief, we'll of course treat ourselves to a glass of red wine afterwards, but not the cheap kind. So we hope everyone continues to have fun with flat earthers or those who pretend to be flat earthers, and see you next time.
There are a lot of things going on visually that are fooling our eyes. Okay, I don't think that seeing the horizon, rise to our eyes is fooling our eyes. However, I think that
some of the explanations for the sun and its position and how it can be seen coming from the east and setting in the west, like on the solstices, on all different latitudes. I mean, that was another conundrum I looked at. So it must be the firmament, or this crystalline structure in the firmament, that is giving us that effect. And I still think that's a very viable explanation. But what I want to be able to do is actually, start modeling this. So, I've ordered a whole bunch of neodymium magnets and lasers. In fact, the laser that Jaron had is nothing compared to the one I have now. One I have now is a barn burner. It's huge. And we will be doing some experiments with that.